Here's a segment from a recent Gun Talk radio episode. You can listen to all the Gun Talk radio podcasts however you tune in, or check out guntalk.com for more. How many times have you heard me say you got to stand up, speak up, show up? That really is it. If you count yourself as a Second Amendment activist, as a constitutional rights warrior, we have to speak up, show up, stand up, make our positions known. And sometimes, frankly, that's not convenient. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people give the excuse, well, you know, those anti-gun people, they don't have jobs. I have a job. I can't go to the legislature. They all have jobs. Give me a break. Just make excuses. What if you had to go all the way across the country from the West Coast to the East Coast? Oh, man, that would be inconvenient. Give me a break. It's an opportunity. And a guy who just did that this past week and did a terrific job for us joins us right now. Cheng, you may know him from the Top Shots TV show. Professional shooter now. Chris, welcome.
Hey, Tom. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So you testified before the United States Congress this week. Wow.
Yeah, it's a feather in my cap, and it came up very last minute and on short notice. I found out late Friday that my invitation, was extended, and then the testimony was on Tuesday.
Wow! And
so I had to, take a day off work. Yeah, flew across the country from San Francisco to D.C. and it was the experience of a lifetime. And also, I hope that the message that I sent to the Congress was a hopefully unique one that helps move the needle, because I think we're all a little frustrated with how we just continue to sort of chase our own tail and spin around in circles with the gun rights debate, and I feel like we need to.
Let me take that. Let me tee this up for you, okay? For those who don't know, and you've been on the show enough, we've talked about this. One of the things that happens to us as gun owners is the other side likes to pigeonhole us and portray us in such a way that we are not sympathetic figures. Typically, it's those old, white, straight guys. We can ignore them. So when you get up there and you say, well, I'm Asian, and they can see that you're young, and I'm gay, and I'm a shooter, it's kind of like they go, what?
Right.
What just happened here? So, I mean, and I know there are people who are on our side who say, well, we shouldn't have to say that. And they're right. We shouldn't have to do that. But in the world of media and public perception, this is not a bad way to go to break people out of that, I don't know what you'd even call it, the stereotype world, which is so common there. So how did it go? How did the whole testimony thing go?
Yeah, I mean, all in all, I'm really pleased with how it went. And, I opened my introduction, very clearly wanting to tell my American story. And so part of this is about, really showing that it doesn't matter if you're Asian or another race, or if you're gay, or it just doesn't matter what any of your sort of identity politics looks like, that the Second Amendment community is a very diverse community. And right, the Second Amendment is for everybody who decides to exercise their right to self-defense with a firearm. And, I really wanted to not just break down some stereotypes and some barriers, but, the key message of my testimony was that gun control has a racist past, and that it has been used as a tool of discrimination against particular races in America, the African American community being probably the most obvious one.
Right.
But Asian Americans have not escaped that either. And with the internment of 110,000 innocent Japanese Americans during World War II, that was done under the guise of public safety and national security. And if we look at the gun control legislation under consideration today, it's also being used as a tool to discriminate against law-abiding citizens. Right? We are unfairly being targeted and having restrictions and confiscations and bans being all discussed, and that's just not right. why are we allowing the smallest of smallest percentages of criminals who are using firearms to commit crimes dictate, policy and law that's going to unfairly discriminate against the law-abiding majority? I just don't understand how that's coming to be.
Well, yeah, you're a smart dude, and you understand that that's not really what's going on. It's a whole different power play going on, and has been for 50-plus years, where that's the argument that's being made, but the goal is simply purely disarmament. It has nothing to do with, are we going to stop criminals? That's just what they use, the tool they use to try to get the public to buy in to whatever the scary thing of the moment is, whether it's way back it was Saturday Night Specials, which are small guns, or sniper rifles, which are big guns, or AR-15s, which are scary-looking guns. It's just whichever category they could slice off and get banned at a time, they'll go for that one.
Yep, absolutely. And, I know anti-gun folks, they kind of often wince at the slippery slope argument. And I think what's frustrating about the debate and discussion is that we're not thinking critically about the logic of gun control and this eventual path of full disarmament, right? And to your point, it's like, well, look, if we ban Saturday Night Specials, well, what's next, right? Today it's AR-15s, right? The next thing is we're just going to go right down the line of, well, after AR-15s are banned, what's the next dangerous, weapon type that's going to be used in the next mass shooting?
It's always the next thing, because none of it actually works if works means reducing crime, because we've tried every form of gun control imaginable in the United States, including confiscation and bans, and none of them have ever reduced crime. And so every time they pass something, it's destined to fail, which brings them to whatever is the next thing. I mean, just this morning, you may not have seen this, just this morning on Meet the Press, Chris Murphy, Democrat of Connecticut, he's saying that we got to get the Republicans to buy in on these latest measures, because that'll convince everybody that they can get along with us and we don't need to blow up the filibuster. And then I love this. He says, and I think that the theory of the case is that once we convince Republicans that the sky doesn't fall for you politically when you support a reasonable expansion of something like background checks, love this next line, you can move on to other interventions. In other words, we wanted to get this one done, but we actually really, really want to move on to even more gun control, even though we're telling you this is all we want.
Yeah, it's what I keep on hearing from the anti-gun side is things like nobody's talking about confiscating or taking your guns away. But then there's literally, you have Senator Feinstein, Biden, Pelosi, Kamala Harris, like they're literally saying these things.
Yes.
So it's speaking, bringing, power to truth and speaking our truth it's frustrating to have to keep on, repeating our arguments, but that's part of this, right? It is about how do we not just win, minds with facts and figures, but how do we win the hearts, right? This is a hearts and minds campaign.
Okay.
Right. That's how I look at this.
Right.
And we need to bring, we have to bring our passion. We have to bring our passion and emotion into why this is important to us, right? And why is it important to me? The Second Amendment is important because it enables and empowers me to protect myself and the people that I love when law enforcement and the government can't be there for me, which I don't expect or anticipate them to always be there for me.
That's perfect. Chris, hold on to that thought a second. I'm up against my break. I'm going to hold you over here. But the idea that's we're going to expand upon this idea of taking your passion and sharing it, because people can recognize your passion, and then they want to know, why are you so passionate about this? And then maybe some of them are going to say, what is it I'm missing here about what I've been told? Because they keep telling me nobody wants to take your guns, except that when President Biden says we want to ban your guns, and people say he doesn't want to ban your guns, I'm saying, well, so when he says he wants to ban the guns, you're saying he doesn't mean he wants. This is so crazy. It's just nuts up. We're talking with Chris Cheng, winner, champion of Top Shot. Chris, I'm looking at your Facebook page. I'm looking at this picture of you and Maj Touré and Diana Muller. And I'm looking at this, and as you say, on short notice, these three people, the three of you, dropped what you were doing and went to D.C. and testified. And that's kind of that whole deal of we have to be, and none of this was convenient to any of you. You all had lives, you all had things planned, and you simply had to tear them all up and say, this is a huge opportunity for me to be an advocate for the Second Amendment.
Exactly. And, I just jumped at the opportunity, and, Maj and Diana were tremendous allies and supporters. And like you said, they too dropped what they were doing. And both of them literally said, Chris, if you want us there, we'll be there. And I hadn't even thought about bringing anybody until Diana had mentioned it to me. I'm like, yeah, it would be really helpful to have not just the moral support, but even just, the visual of seeing, right, yes. Maj, who's African-American, Diana, who's a woman, me, who's, gay, Asian, just the three of us standing in the United States Senate, Judiciary Committee meeting, and representing our country and what we believe to be our constitutional right to defend ourselves with a firearm. It was such a moment, I think, for me personally and for our community.
And with you guys just standing there, just the image of you are saying, this is America's gun owners. These are the people you're talking about. Quit trying to pigeonhole us and make us think, or make people think that we're one thing. What we really are is we're everybody. We're your neighbors. We're your friends. We're your coworkers. Second Amendment supporters are everywhere, and we believe in the right to protect ourselves, and we're going to fight for that. And you got there and you gave a great testimony. One of the things I was wondering about is, even though we've had the pink pistols out for a long time, there are fairly significant gay organizations that are very much anti-gun. That's got to be frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes in my mind, right, it's counter to logic. So, right, if any group of people are marginalized and trying to be silenced, and if they're also under threat, the logical conclusion is if you're under threat, you need to protect yourself. And if you need to protect yourself, well, firearm is a clear top choice. And I don't understand. I do understand. I mean, the reason why a lot of LGBT organizations are anti-gun is basically because they're in gay culture, right? You're supposed to be a Democrat, and you're therefore, right? If you're a Democrat, you're supposed to be anti-gun, which is just a false. It's a false train of thought, right?
It's an orthodoxy.
Exactly. And there's plenty of Democrats and plenty of liberals who are pro-gun,
yes,
right, and pro-Second Amendment. And so this is not a political thing, but the point is the culture of, right, different communities is extremely strong. And so if you, in the gay community, right, if you're not encouraged, or if you don't see gay people like me saying, hey, if you are under threat, you should at least think about purchasing a firearm, or at least going to the range and shooting a gun to just see what it's like, right?
Try it out
before you buy. Yeah,
there you
try it out. There's no harm in going to the range and seeing what you're missing out. And I don't know. I guess the other quick thing I want to mention about my testimony is
we're short on time. Go fast, please.
Yeah, so the main point is, that America, we have what is phrased as a gun violence problem, and that the problem is guns. And that was mentioned in the hearing, and the problem is not guns. The problem is the violence, right? We need to focus on solving for the violence and the hate, and that is what's going to make our country safer, not by taking more guns away from the hands of law-abiding Americans.
And that's why he did such a great job. Chris, thank you so much. You're welcome here anytime, my friend.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
All righty, you take care. Chris Cheng, Top Shot. Tell you, when they look at it and they realize, hey, maybe we've been lied to on this. Yeah, you have.